She had exactly 7 seconds to decide. Apologize on her knees and wipe premium whiskey from a $15,000 suit with her own scarf, or step into that cage downstairs with his champion, a beast of a man who'd sent 4 opponents to the ICU this year alone. Maya Torres should have been paralyzed with fear. Any rational person would have been. But standing there in that temple of organized chaos, Swarovski chandeliers throwing prismatic shadows across polished obsidian floors that had witnessed countless betrayals, surrounded by men in bespoke suits who wore violence like a second skin, all she could think about was how badly she needed to crack open Jinrei Park's flawless, ice-cold exterior. They say vengeance tastes sweetest when served cold. What they never mention is that sometimes it demands a left hook, a knee to the ribs, and the kind of fury that's been aging in your soul for 8 months. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive quietly. It explodes through the entrance with split knuckles and an unpaid score. This is the story of Maya Torres, a Filipina-American woman who went from pouring Dom Perignon for Los Angeles' most lethal players to becoming the single thing a Korean Mafia prince never anticipated. A woman who refused to submit, even when submission would have meant survival. Welcome back, beautiful souls and midnight rebels. Before we descend into this world of dangerous attraction and high-stakes warfare, hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing our dark romance family spread across continents and time zones. Every like, every share, every bit of support you give keeps these addictive stories coming. So grab your headphones, dim those lights, and settle in as we rewind to where this explosive collision began. Maya was 26 when she accepted the position at the Velvet Garden. It was supposed to be temporary, just a bridge job to keep her studio apartment while she figured out her next move after her sister Lucia died in county jail. The establishment had a reputation for being exclusive, the kind of place where getting through the door required connections that money alone couldn't buy, and where tips from a single shift could cover 3 weeks of rent. It seemed like salvation. She should have recognized it as damnation. On her first shift, the floor supervisor, a rail-thin man named Vincent Choi, whose anxiety could power downtown LA, pulled her into the staff hallway before she'd even fastened her apron. His voice dropped to a whisper that felt like a blade pressed to skin. Listen very carefully, Maya. There are protocols here. Non-negotiable protocols. She nodded, expecting standard restaurant hierarchy. Don't challenge the head chef. Don't give unauthorized discounts. Push the premium bottles. When the VIP lounges are occupied, you don't enter unless explicitly summoned. You don't ask questions about who's meeting or why. You don't make direct eye contact unless they address you first. He paused, his hand trembling slightly as it gripped her shoulder. And if Mr. Park is present, you treat him like he's the president, a god, and your salvation all rolled into one flawless package. Understood? Mr. Park? She asked, already feeling the weight of something predatory settling over the conversation. Vincent's face went chalk white. Just follow exactly what I'm telling you, and you'll survive here. She should have walked out that precise moment, should have recognized that any workplace requiring that level of deference wasn't serving food, it was serving something far more dangerous. But she needed the money, and more than that, she needed access. Lucia hadn't just died in custody. She'd been murdered there, strangled in her cell during a supposed altercation that left no witnesses and even fewer answers. The official report claimed she'd been dealing information, playing dangerous games with dangerous people. But Maya knew Lucia. Her baby sister wasn't a criminal mastermind. She was a paralegal who'd accidentally stumbled onto the wrong case files, documents connecting to the SBK, the Korean syndicate that controlled half of Los Angeles from the shadows. The official narrative said Lucia was corrupt, that she'd been selling secrets, betraying clients. But Maya knew the truth. Someone had framed her, someone powerful enough to rewrite reality itself. And the Velvet Garden? It wasn't just an exclusive restaurant. It was SBK's crown jewel, their fortress, their war room, their kingdom disguised as hospitality. Maya wasn't there to serve drinks. She was there to hunt. 10 weeks into the job, she'd mapped every corner of the building. She knew which servers were on the syndicate payroll versus which ones were just trying to survive. She knew the VIP lounges rotated based on hierarchy, that Lounge 9 was reserved for the man at the very top. She knew the security cameras had blind spots near the kitchen elevators, that the culinary staff changed rotations at 10 p.m., that the real business transactions happened after 1 a.m. when the restaurant closed to civilians. She'd been patient, careful, invisible. Tonight, that performance ended. Lounge 9 glowed with amber light when she pushed through the heavy mahogany doors, a tray of premium bottles balanced perfectly on her palm. The room was a masterclass in controlled luxury. Ebony wood paneling, leather seats the color of old blood, a crystal chandelier casting fragmented light across the faces of men who wore their brutality like custom tailoring. They barely acknowledged her presence. To them, she was decor, a pretty brown-skinned girl in a black uniform who understood her place in their hierarchy. Perfect. Let them think that. She moved through the space with practiced efficiency, setting down crystal glasses without sound, pouring liquor that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her hands were rock steady. Her expression was serene. Inside, her heart was a clenched fist of rage, because there, at the head of that table, sat Jinrei Park. She'd seen photographs, security footage, blurry images captured by people who didn't survive long enough to take clearer ones. But nothing had prepared her for the reality of him. He was beautiful the way blades are beautiful, elegant and absolutely lethal. His suit was midnight navy, cut so precisely it looked like liquid shadow. His hair was swept back from a face that could have belonged to a tech CEO or a film star, all sharp angles and perfect symmetry. But it was his eyes that stole her breath. Dark, calculating, completely devoid of anything resembling mercy. This was the man who controlled SBK's West Coast empire, the man whose name appeared on documents that destroyed lives, the man who held answers about what really happened to Lucia. He was speaking to someone across the table, his voice low and controlled, each word measured like currency. When Maya moved closer with the final bottle, a vintage soju sealed in gold, the kind reserved for celebrating victories or sealing blood pacts, she'd already rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her cramped apartment, had practiced the angle, the timing, the exact pressure needed to make it look convincing. The bottle slipped from her tray. Time crystallized into fragments. She watched the glass tumble through space, saw the amber liquid arc like a promise, felt the cold splash hit her hands a heartbeat before it drenched Jinrei Park's chest. The room went silent. Not the surprised kind of silence, the kind that comes right before an execution. The soju spread across his shirt like gilt on silk, dark and damning. The scent of expensive alcohol filled the air, sharp and accusatory. Maya stepped back, her eyes wide, her mouth forming a perfect circle of manufactured horror. "I'm so sorry, I don't—" His voice was quiet, rougher than she'd expected. He stood slowly, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that felt like being dissected. "Don't apologize." Around them, the other men rose from their seats. Maya recognized faces from her research, lieutenants, enforcers, the kind of people who solve problems with blunt force and unmarked graves. Jinrei held up one hand. They froze instantly. He took a step toward her, then another. Maya held her ground even though every survival instinct was screaming at her to run. She was close enough now to see the details the photographs had missed, the thin scar bisecting his left eyebrow, the way his pupils dilated slightly as he studied her face, the controlled fury in the set of his jaw. "You know what that bottle was worth?" he asked softly. Maya's pulse hammered against her ribs. "I can pay for it. I'll work double shifts. I'll—" $70,000. He said it like he was commenting on the weather. "Vintage 1946 Hueyo 41, one of 8 bottles left in existence, and you just spilled it on me like cheap wine." Someone behind him laughed, sharp and cruel. Jinrei didn't look away from Maya's face. "You have 2 options. You can get on your knees right now, apologize properly, and clean this stain with your bare hands." He gestured to his ruined shirt, his expression unreadable. "Or you can step into the cage downstairs and face my champion, Taemin." He paused. 7 seconds to choose. The room held its breath. Maya should have been terrified, should have been calculating escape routes, measuring distances to exits, wondering if she'd make it to her car before they caught her. But standing there with 60 pairs of eyes burning into her back and Jinray Park's dark gaze searing into her face, all she felt was the cold, clarifying rage she'd been carrying since the day they told her Lucia was dead. This man thought she was nothing, thought she was disposable. He had no idea what he'd just challenged. "I'll take the fight," she said. The words dropped into the silence like stones into still water. Someone gasped. Someone else swore in Korean. Jinray's expression didn't change, but something flicked. The basement level of the Velvet Garden wasn't on any official blueprint. Maya had discovered it 5 weeks into her employment, following a lieutenant through a service door that led to a descending staircase instead of the parking structure. She'd memorized the route, marked the cameras, noted the security protocols, but she'd never been inside. The room they led her to was a contradiction. Elegance corrupted by brutality. The floors were polished concrete, dark enough to camouflage bloodstains. The walls were exposed brick, industrial and raw. But hanging from the ceiling were those same crystal chandeliers, casting soft golden light across the space like a blessing over an altar of violence. In the center sat a raised platform, not a boxing ring, not quite an MMA octagon, but something between. Padded mats, no ropes, surrounded by a low barrier that wouldn't stop anyone from falling, but would make climbing out utterly humiliating. Men lined the walls, drinks in hand, money already changing hands as they placed their bets. Maya caught fragments of conversation as she moved through the crowd. "She's dead in 45 seconds. Taemin's going to break her like a doll. 60,000 on first-minute knockout. No one bet on her. No one even considered it." Vincent materialized at her elbow, his face gray with terror. "Maya, you can still apologize. Mr. Park would accept it. I'm not apologizing." "You don't understand what you're doing. Taemin has hospitalized people in this cage. Put them in comas. This isn't theater. This is... I know exactly what this is." She turned to face him, and something in her expression made him step back. "Where do I change?" He pointed toward a side door with a trembling hand. The changing room was small, clinical. Someone had left workout clothes on the bench, black compression shorts, a sports bra, hand wraps. Maya stripped out of her uniform with mechanical precision, her mind already shifting into the space she hadn't occupied in 6 years. The space where Maya Torres the waitress didn't exist, where only Maya Torres the fighter remained. She'd started Muay Thai at 16, following Lucia to the gym after school. Lucia had wanted to learn self-defense. Maya had wanted to hit something until her knuckles bled. By 18, she was competing. By 20, she'd won the regional championship in her weight class. By 22, she'd been offered a professional contract. Then Lucia got arrested. Their mother's medical bills became crushing, and Maya's dreams of fighting professionally evaporated like smoke in sunlight. But muscle memory doesn't forget. Her hands still knew how to wrap themselves. Her body still knew how to move. And the rage had only gotten sharper with time, honed to a killing edge. She stared at herself in the mirror, 5'5", lean and muscled in ways the waitress uniform had hidden. Her brown skin gleamed under fluorescent lights. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were cold. This was who she really was. The door opened. A man stepped inside, not Vincent, someone else, someone with authority in the way he carried himself. He looked her over with clinical assessment. "You can still back out. Mr. Park doesn't want to waste time if you're going to quit." "I won't quit. Taemin won't hold back because you're a woman. He's put men twice your size in intensive care. Some didn't wake up." Maya met his gaze. "Then Taemin should be careful." Something like respect flickered across his face. 3-minute rounds. No time limit. Fight ends when someone can't get up or verbally submits. No weapons, no biting, no eye gouging. Everything else is fair game. He paused. "Any questions?" "Just one." Maya flexed her wrapped hands. "Where's my opponent?" The man smiled grimly. "Already in the cage." The crowd's energy hit her like a physical force when she stepped back into the main room. They'd formed a tight circle around the platform, bodies pressed together, voices rising in anticipation. Maya moved through them, feeling their eyes on her skin. their doubt, their hunger for violence, their certainty that she was about to be destroyed. She climbed onto the platform. Taman was waiting. He was massive, 6'5" at least, shoulders like a linebacker, arms thick with muscle and covered in tattoos that snaked up his neck. His face was brutal, scarred, the nose broken and healed wrong multiple times. He wore only fight shorts, his bare chest a canvas of survived violence. He looked at Maya like she was an insect. She looked at him like he was already bleeding. The crowd fell silent as Jinray Park stepped to the edge of the platform. He'd changed shirts, the ruined one replaced by black silk that made him look like a beautiful demon. His eyes found Maya's across the space. "The rules are simple," he announced, his voice carrying easily. 3-minute rounds, no breaks. Fight continues until someone yields or can't continue. He paused, his gaze still locked on Maya. "Begin." Taman moved first. For a big man, he was fast. He closed the distance in 2 strides, his right hand already cocked back for a haymaker that would have separated Maya's head from her shoulders if it connected. It didn't connect. She slipped inside his guard, her body moving on pure instinct, and drove her fist into his ribs. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession, targeting the liver. She felt the impact shudder up her arm, felt the satisfying give of flesh and muscle. Taman grunted, grabbed for her. Maya was already gone, dancing back, her footwork clean and precise. The crowd murmured. Someone shouted encouragement to Taman. Someone else laughed nervously. Taman's expression hardened. He came at her again, this time with more caution, his hands up in a proper guard. He threw a jab, testing her defense. Maya blocked it, countered with a hook to his jaw that snapped his head sideways. The crowd gasped. Taman touched his mouth. His fingers came away bloody. He stared at the blood for a moment, then back at Maya. His eyes had changed. He wasn't looking at an insect anymore. He was looking at a threat. What followed was brutal poetry. Taman had weight, power, and reach. Every punch he threw carried enough force to shatter bones. But Maya had speed, precision, and 6 years of rage condensed into every strike. She moved like water, like smoke, always just out of reach until she wanted to be close. And when she got close, she made it hurt. She worked his body systematically. Ribs, solar plexus, liver, kidneys. Every shot calculated to drain his stamina, to make him slower, to make him sloppy. She ate some hits. A glancing blow to her temple that made stars explode behind her eyes. A body shot that drove the air from her lungs, but she gave back worse. The chandelier light caught the sweat on their skin, turned it gold and crimson where blood mixed with exertion. The sound of strikes hitting flesh echoed through the room like a war drum. Taman's breathing grew labored. Maya's knuckles split inside her wraps. Neither of them stopped. In the second round, Taman caught her with a right hand that sent her stumbling. She felt her lips split, tasted copper. The crowd roared. Taman pressed his advantage, throwing combinations that forced Maya back toward the edge of the platform. She let him think he was winning, let him commit his weight forward. Then she exploded upward with an uppercut that started at her hips, traveled through her shoulder, and snapped Taman's head back so violently his mouthguard flew out. He staggered, blinked. Maya didn't give him time to recover. She unleashed everything, left hook to the temple, right cross to the jaw, another hook to the body. Taman's guard crumbled. His legs wobbled. She saw the exact moment his consciousness flickered, that split second where the lights dimmed behind his eyes. Her final combination was textbook perfect. Jab to set the distance, cross to rotate his chin, hook to turn off the lights. Taman collapsed, not fell, collapsed. His legs gave out completely and he dropped to the mat like a puppet with cut strings, his eyes rolled back, his massive body going limp. Silence crashed over the room. Maya stood over him, her chest heaving, her hands trembling with adrenaline, blood dripping from her split knuckles onto the mat. She was a vision of controlled violence, beautiful and terrible, and utterly unbreakable. Slowly, she raised her eyes to find Jinray Park. He hadn't moved from his position at the edge of the platform, hadn't flinched, hadn't looked away. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were burning with something that made Maya's breath catch. Not anger, fascination, hunger, something darker than desire and more dangerous than respect. He was looking at her like he'd just discovered a new species, like he was already imagining all the ways to possess it. The crowd erupted. Men shouted, some in outrage, some in disbelief. Money changed hands frantically. Someone was screaming about fixed fights. Someone else was demanding a rematch. Jinrei raised one hand. Instant silence. "Get him out of here," he said quietly, gesturing to Taemin's unconscious form. "Get medical if he needs it." Two men scrambled onto the platform, dragging Taemin away. Maya remained frozen in place, her body still vibrating with adrenaline, her gaze locked on Jinrei's face. He stepped onto the platform, moved toward her with that same predatory grace. The crowd parted automatically, everyone suddenly very interested in looking anywhere but at their boss. When he reached Maya, he stopped so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark, sandalwood and bergamot. "You lied to me," he said softly. Maya's pulse thundered in her ears. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building that didn't officially exist on any city records. Maya registered details as they ascended in the private elevator. No buttons on the panel, only a biometric scanner and security cameras in every corner. The doors opened directly into Jinrei's personal domain. She'd expected opulence. What she got was something far more complicated. The main room stretched out in shadows and selective light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, Los Angeles glittering like scattered diamonds against black velvet. The furniture was minimal, dark leather, sharp angles, nothing soft or welcoming. But the art on the walls was museum quality. A Rothko, a Basquiat, something that might have been a stolen Caravaggio. The contrast was deliberate. Beauty surrounded by darkness. Elegance wrapped in threat. "Sit." Jinrei gestured to the leather sofa near the windows. "I'll get ice." Maya remained standing, her body still on high alert despite the exhaustion creeping through her muscles. She watched him move through the space, disappearing into what she assumed was a kitchen. His movements were fluid, controlled. No wasted motion, no hesitation. When he returned, he carried a first aid kit and a crystal tumbler filled with amber liquid. "Drink this first." He handed her the glass. "Whiskey. It'll help with the pain." Maya accepted it but didn't drink immediately. "What is this?" "What is what?" She gestured at the room, at him, at the surreal situation of sitting in a crime lord's penthouse after beating his champion unconscious. "You should be furious. You should be making me disappear for humiliating your man." Jinrei settled into the chair across from her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "You think Taemin was humiliated?" "I knocked him out in front of your entire organization. You beat him in a fair fight. There's no shame in losing to someone better." He tilted his head, studying her. "The shame would have been refusing the challenge, running away. You didn't run." Maya finally took a sip of the whiskey. It burned down her throat, smooth and expensive. "I'm still not sure why you're being reasonable about this." "Reasonable?" His laugh was soft, dark. "Maya, it is Maya, correct?" "Yes." "I'm many things, but reasonable isn't one of them. I'm interested." "There's a difference." "Interested in what?" "In why a woman with your skills was serving drinks in my restaurant. In what you're really doing here. In why you'd deliberately spill a $70,000 bottle on me just to get my attention." He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his gaze pinning her in place. "You wanted that fight. You engineered it. The question is why?" Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her expression calm. This was the moment, the precipice. She could lie completely, or she could give him enough truth to be believable. "My sister," she said quietly. "Lucia Torres. She died in county jail 7 months ago. The report said she was dealing secrets to your organization's enemies, that she started a fight and got herself killed." Jinrei's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. "I remember that name." She wasn't dirty. She was a paralegal who stumbled onto the wrong case files, documents connecting to SBK operations, and when things went bad, someone made sure she took the fall. Maya set the whiskey down, her hands steady despite the fury building in her chest. "I came here to find out who. I came here to make them pay." Silence stretched between them. Outside, the city pulsed with light and life, oblivious to the darkness in this room. "So you infiltrated my organization," Jinrei said slowly. "Worked here for weeks, learned our patterns, and tonight you forced me to notice you by staging an accident that could have gotten you killed." He smiled, and it was a terrible, beautiful thing. "That's either brilliant or suicidal. Maybe both. Definitely both." He stood, retrieving the first aid kit. "Let me see your hands." Maya hesitated. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, his voice softer now. "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. Now give me your hands." She extended them slowly. Her knuckles were split, blood dried around the wounds, bruises already forming. Jinrei knelt in front of her, actually knelt, putting himself at her level, and began unwrapping the hand wraps with surprising gentleness. "Your sister was caught in something she didn't understand," he said, his attention focused on cleaning her wounds. "The case files she saw involved money laundering through legal firms. When we discovered the breach, we investigated everyone with access. Your sister was questioned, cleared. We had no interest in an innocent civilian." Maya's breath caught. "Then who?" "Someone wanted her silenced. Someone with access to our records who could manipulate the narrative." He dabbed antiseptic on her knuckles. Maya hissed at the sting. "I didn't order her death, but I can't say the same for everyone in my organization." "Do you know who did it?" Jinrei was quiet for a long moment, his fingers working carefully to bandage her hands. When he finally looked up, his expression was raw in a way that made Maya's pulse stutter. "I have suspicions," he said, "but no proof. And in my world, accusations without proof are just suicide notes." "Then help me find proof." He laughed, sharp and bitter. "Why would I do that? You just told me you infiltrated my organization with intent to destroy someone in it. I should have you eliminated as a security risk." "But you won't." "No." His thumb traced the edge of her bandaged palm. "I won't. Do you know why?" Maya shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Because I need someone exactly like you." He stood, creating distance between them, and walked to the windows. His silhouette was sharp against the city lights. "I'm trapped, Maya. I've been trapped. Since I was 23 years old, and every year the chains get tighter." "I don't understand." He turned to face her. "My aunt, Madame Seo. She runs SBK. I'm just her weapon, her attack dog, her pretty face for the Americans, and she keeps me on a very short leash." The name sent ice through Maya's veins. Madame Seo. Even she'd heard whispers about the woman, rumors of ruthlessness that made her nephew look merciful by comparison. "She controls me through blackmail," Jinrei continued, his voice flat, emotionless. "Medical records, documents with my signature, evidence that I euthanized my own father when he was dying of pancreatic cancer." Maya's breath stopped. "He was suffering," Jinrei said, and for the first time she heard real pain in his voice. 4 months of agony begging to die. The doctors wouldn't help. So I did. I gave him morphine, held his hand, and let him go peacefully. My aunt was there, she watched. And then she had every moment documented. She blackmailed you with mercy. She blackmailed me with murder. In our world, family killing family is the ultimate taboo. It doesn't matter that he wanted to die. It doesn't matter that I was helping him. If that evidence surfaces, every family in SBK would demand my execution." He met Maya's gaze. "So I do everything she says, run her operations, clean up her messes, smile and nod, and pretend I'm the one in control." Maya's mind raced. This wasn't what she'd expected. She'd come here looking for a monster and instead found, what? A prisoner? A man capable of tenderness and violence in equal measure? "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I watched you fight tonight. I watched you refuse to submit, refuse to break, even when you were outweighed and outmatched. You're not afraid of consequences. You're not afraid of me." He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "And I think you're exactly reckless enough to help me." "Help you do what?" "Destroy my aunt. Find the blackmail, destroy it, and free me from her control." His smile was sharp as broken glass. "In exchange, I'll give you access to every record in SBK, every name, every operation, every secret. We'll find who framed your sister together, and then I'll let you have them." The offer hung in the air between them. dangerous and seductive. Maya should have said no, should have recognized this for the trap it could be. But staring into Jinrei's eyes, seeing the desperate fury hidden behind his controlled mask, she realized something. They were the same, both trapped by the past, both willing to burn the world to escape it. "I have conditions," she said. "Name them. I want proof. Show me these medical records exist. Show me you're telling the truth." "Done. What else?" "If we do this, if we take down Madame Seo, you don't touch my sister's killer. That one's mine." Jinrei's smile widened. "I wouldn't dream of denying you that pleasure. Anything else?" Maya stood, closing the distance between them until she could feel the heat of his body, smell the sandalwood and bergamot mixed with the copper tang of her own blood. "If you betray me," she said softly, "I'll kill you. I don't care about your empire or your aunt or your blackmail. I'll put you in the ground." He laughed, actually laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "There it is. That's what I saw in the cage. That's what I need." He extended his hand. "Do we have a deal?" Maya stared at his offered hand. This was insane, allying with the head of the organization that destroyed her sister, trusting a man who killed for a living, walking deeper into darkness instead of escaping it. But she'd stopped believing in escape the day Lucia died. Now she only believed in vengeance. She took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, his fingers closing around hers like a promise and a threat. They stood like that for a long morning came wrapped in gray light. Maya woke disoriented, her body one massive bruise, her mind taking several seconds to remember where she was. The guest room was Spartanly elegant, white sheets, dark furniture, a single piece of art on the wall that looked like violence rendered in watercolor. She showered carefully, wincing as hot water found every cut and bruise. When she emerged, she found fresh clothes laid out on the bed, black jeans, a silk blouse the color of deep burgundy. They fit perfectly, which should have been unsettling, but somehow wasn't. Jinrei was in the kitchen when she found him. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked different in daylight, softer somehow, though the danger was still there beneath the surface. "Coffee?" he asked without looking up from whatever he was reading on his tablet. "Please." He poured her a cup. Black, no sugar, which she hadn't told him was how she took it. Another small invasion of privacy that should have bothered her more than it did. "Sleep well?" he asked. "I've had worse nights." Maya accepted the coffee, taking a seat at the kitchen island. "You?" "I don't sleep much anymore. Old habit." He finally looked at her, his gaze traveling over her face with clinical assessment. "How do you feel?" "Like I went 3 rounds with a freight train." His lips curved. "Taman will be pleased to hear that. He regained consciousness around 5 a.m., by the way. First thing he asked was whether you were real or if he'd hallucinated the whole thing." "What did you tell him?" "That he'd lost to someone better, and if he wanted a rematch, he'd have to earn it." Jinrei set down his tablet. He respected that. You'll have his loyalty now, which is worth more than you know. Maya wasn't sure how to process that, so she focused on her coffee instead. The silence between them was oddly comfortable. "I have something for you," Jinrei said after a moment. He stood and retrieved a thin folder from a drawer. "The medical records, the blackmail, everything you asked to see." Maya's hands trembled slightly as she opened the folder. The documents inside were devastating in their clinical precision. Hospital records from Seoul National University Hospital, morphine dosage charts signed by Jinrei Park, a death certificate listing time of death, cause, and attending family. Photographs. God, there were photographs. Jinrei sitting beside his father's hospital bed, holding the old man's hand. The images had been taken from a concealed angle. His face was visible, raw with grief. His father's face was peaceful. The IV line was clear. "She had cameras installed," Jinrei said quietly. "I didn't know until afterward. She confronted me at the funeral with copies." Maya stared at a photo of him wiping tears from his cheeks, and something in her chest cracked. "This is monstrous." "This is my aunt." He took the folder back gently. "She sees sentimentality as weakness. Love is a vulnerability to exploit. She spent my entire life teaching me that caring about anyone is the same as handing them a loaded gun." And yet you told me all of this, showed me your weakness. Maybe I'm tired of being what she made me. He locked the folder in a safe embedded in the wall. Or maybe I'm just curious to see if you'll use it against me. Maya met his gaze. I won't. Why not? Because I know what it's like to love someone the world thinks you shouldn't. She thought of Lucia, of the way people had looked at her after the arrest, like her sister's sins had stained her by proximity. And I know what it's like to have that love used as a weapon. Something shifted in Jinrei's expression. Recognition, perhaps, or the beginning of trust. There's someone I want you to meet, he said. He'll help us with the next phase. The man who arrived an hour later was not what Maya expected. He was white, mid-40s, with a kind of expensive casual style that screamed old money. His smile was warm and genuine when Jinrei introduced him. Maya, this is Daniel Cross, my legal consultant and one of the few people in this organization I actually trust. Daniel extended his hand, his grip firm and professional. It's a pleasure. I've heard remarkable things about last night's performance. Taman is something of a legend, and from what I understand, you made quite the impression. Maya shook his hand, automatically cataloging details. Expensive watch, manicured nails, a slight tan line on his ring finger, married or recently divorced. His eyes were kind, but there was an intelligence behind them that suggested he didn't miss much. Daniel handles the legitimate side of our operations, Jinrei explained. Real estate investments, corporate fronts that keep us clean in public. More importantly, he knows how my aunt structures her security, where she keeps her most sensitive documents. Including the blackmail material, Daniel added. Though I should warn you, getting access to it won't be simple. Madame CO keeps her most valuable assets in a private vault at her estate. The security is formidable. Maya leaned forward. What kind of security? Biometric scanners, armed guards, a digital system I designed myself, ironically enough. Daniel pulled out his tablet, bringing up schematics. There are exactly 3 people with access. Madame Seo herself, her head of security, and me. Can you get us in? Maya asked. I can get us past the digital security. The guards and the biometrics are your problem. He glanced at Jinrei. This is extraordinarily dangerous. If she suspects what we're doing, she won't suspect, Jinrei said, because we're going to give her exactly what she wants. Which is? His smile was cold. A reason to host one of her legendary gatherings, an event important enough that she'll want me there as window dressing, an event that will require her full attention while we move against her. Understanding dawned on Maya. You're going to stage a distraction. We're going to stage a performance, something big enough, public enough, that she can't resist using it to demonstrate her power. Jinrei's gaze was sharp. And while she's busy playing queen, we'll be robbing her castle. Daniel nodded slowly. It could work. Her birthday is in 3 weeks. She always hosts an extravagant celebration. Diplomats, judges, anyone she's bought or blackmailed. Security will be heavy, but the chaos of the party itself will provide cover. 3 weeks, Maya repeated. That's not much time. Which means we start now. Jinrei stood. Daniel, I need you to reach out to your contacts, see if anyone's heard whispers about Maya's sister, who might have wanted her silenced, who had the access to arrange it. Quietly, of course. Daniel gathered his materials. Maya, it was lovely to meet you. I look forward to working together. After he left, Maya found herself alone with Jinrei again. The penthouse felt smaller now, more intimate. You trust him? She asked. As much as I trust anyone. He's been with me for 6 years, never given me a reason to doubt him. Jinrei moved to the windows, staring out at the daylight city. Why? Do you sense something? Maya frowned. She couldn't articulate it exactly, just a feeling. A slight discomfort in the way Daniel's eyes had lingered on Jinrei when he thought no one was watching. Possessive, almost. But that could be loyalty, or paranoia on her part. No, she said finally, just being careful. Good. Paranoia keeps you alive in this world. He turned back to her. Come here. Let me check your hands. Maya crossed to him, extending her bandaged palms. He unwrapped them carefully, his fingers gentle as they examined the healing cuts. The intimacy of the gesture made her pulse quicken. They're healing well, he said softly. You'll have scars, but they'll fade. I don't mind scars. No, I don't imagine you do. His thumb traced the edge of one cut, the touch sending electricity up her arm. You're not afraid of pain. That's rare. Pain is just information. It tells you you're still alive. Jinrei's eyes lifted to hers, and the intensity in them stole her breath. You're remarkable. Do you know that? Maya's heart hammered. They were standing too close, the space between them charged with something dangerous. She should step back, create distance. But she didn't. I'm just someone who refuses to stay down, she whispered. No. His hand moved to her face, cupping her jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. You're someone who turns pain into power, who takes what should break you and makes it into a weapon. He stopped, swallowed. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. I'm what? Maya asked, her voice barely audible. Mine, he said. Or you could be, if you wanted. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. This wasn't just an alliance anymore. This was something else, something darker and more complicated. Maya knew she should say no, should maintain professional distance, but standing there with his hand on her face and his eyes burning into hers, she realized the truth. She'd stopped seeing him as just a target the moment he'd knelt in front of her to bandage her wounds, stopped seeing him as just a monster when he'd shown her the photos of his grief. He was a man, trapped and desperate and dangerous, just like her. I want, she whispered. Jinrei's control shattered. He kissed her like he'd been starving for it, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. His mouth was demanding, fierce, tasting of coffee and something darker. Maya responded in kind, her bandaged hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. They collided, all heat and desperate need and months of isolation finally finding release. He lifted her easily, her legs wrapping around his waist, her back against the cool glass of the window. The city stretched out behind them. 3 weeks passed in a blur of preparation and proximity. Maya moved into the penthouse officially, her old apartment abandoned like the life she'd left behind. During the day, she trained, rebuilding stamina she'd let slip, working with Taemin, who'd become an unlikely ally. At night, she and Jinrei planned, their strategies punctuated by stolen moments of intimacy that grew more intense with each passing day. They were becoming dangerous together. Daniel proved invaluable, providing intel on Madame Seo's security systems, her routines, her weaknesses. He seemed genuinely invested in their success, though Maya occasionally caught him watching Jinrei with an expression she couldn't quite read. Now, the night of the heist had arrived. Madame Seo's estate sprawled across a hillside in Palos Verdes, a monument to wealth and power disguised as a home. The party was already in full swing when Maya arrived on Jinrei's arm, dressed in midnight blue silk that transformed her into someone who belonged in this world of casual cruelty and expensive taste. Breathe, Jinrei murmured as they entered. You look perfect. Maya forced her shoulders to relax. Around them, Los Angeles' elite mingled. Politicians whose campaigns Madame Seo had funded, judges who owed her favors, criminals who'd been legitimized by her money. The air smelled of champagne and corruption. Madame Seo herself held court in the center of the ballroom. She was smaller than Maya expected, elegant in a way that made her seem fragile until you saw her eyes. Those eyes were black ice, calculating, merciless, ancient beyond her years. Jinrei. Her voice carried across the room, cutting through conversation like a blade. Come introduce me to your new acquisition. Maya felt Jinrei's hand tighten on her waist, a warning and a comfort simultaneously. They approached together. Aunt, happy birthday. He kissed her cheek with practiced affection. This is Maya Torres. Maya, my aunt, Madame Seo. Maya extended her hand, meeting the older woman's gaze without flinching. It's an honor. Madame Seo's handshake was brief, her assessment brutal. Maya felt herself being weighed, measured, categorized. When the older woman released her hand, she smiled, but it was the smile of a predator who just decided not to strike yet. The fighter, Madame Seo said. Yes, I heard about that. You embarrassed Taemin quite thoroughly. Her gaze shifted to Jinrei. I assume there's a reason you've brought her into our world? She's useful, Jinrei said smoothly. Skilled, loyal, everything you taught me to value. The wordplay was subtle, praising his aunt while reminding her of the lessons she'd used to shape him. Madame Seo's smile widened. How pragmatic. Your father would have disapproved. He always was too sentimental. But I suppose I raised you better than that. She turned her attention back to Maya. Enjoy the party, Miss Torres, and do try not to break anyone tonight. These guests are expensive to replace. They were dismissed. Maya followed Jinrei through the crowd, her heart hammering. She knows something. She always knows something, he said quietly. But she doesn't know everything. Not yet. He guided her toward a side corridor, his hand steady on her back. Daniel will create the distraction in 20 minutes. That's our window. The vault was located in the estate's west wing, disguised as a wine cellar. Maya and Jinrei moved through the shadows. Avoiding security cameras Daniel had supposedly disabled. The door required both a code and a biometric scan. Jinrei provided the code. The scanner read his palm. The vault opened with a whisper of hydraulics. Inside was a cathedral of secrets. Filing cabinets lined the walls, each labeled with years and names. Digital servers hummed in temperature-controlled cases. And in the center, protected by glass, sat the physical documents Madame Seo deemed most valuable. There, Jinrei pointed to a file marked with his father's name. That's what we came for. But Maya's attention had been caught by something else, a file with her sister's name. Her hands trembled as she pulled it from the shelf. Maya, we don't have time. I have to know. She opened the file. The first document was a police report from the night Lucia was arrested. Standard charges, normal procedure. But underneath were communications, emails between members of SBK's financial division and someone within the LAPD, arrangements for evidence to be planted, money changing hands. Her sister had been guilty of the original crime, accessing confidential files, but she'd also been cooperating with federal investigators, trying to make it right. Someone had found out. Someone had decided she was too dangerous to live. Maya's vision blurred as she read the final document, an order for Lucia's death, sanctioned by someone with the authority to make prisoners disappear. The signature at the bottom made her blood run cold. Not Madame Seo's, not Jinrei's, Daniel Cross. No, she whispered. No, that's not. The vault door slammed shut. Maya and Jinrei spun toward the sound. Through the reinforced glass, they could see Daniel standing in the corridor, his expression apologetic but resolute. I'm sorry, he said, his voice coming through an intercom. I truly am, but you've become too dangerous, Jinrei. And Maya, well, you should have stayed in your place. Jinrei moved to the door, slamming his palm against the glass. Daniel, don't do this. We can talk. We're past talking. Daniel's smile was sad. I've spent 6 years trying to guide you, trying to shape you into what the organization needs. But you keep clinging to these pointless sentiments. Your father's death should have freed you. Instead, you let his ghost control you. You worked for my aunt, Jinrei said, realization dawning on his face. This whole time, you were her spy. I work for SBK. Sometimes that means working with your aunt. Sometimes it means working around her. Daniel adjusted his cufflinks casually. Madame Seo wanted you controlled through guilt. I suggested something more permanent, and now, thanks to Maya's investigation, I have the perfect opportunity. Maya clutched her sister's file, rage burning through her shock. You killed her. You murdered my sister to protect yourself. I eliminated a security risk who was cooperating with federal agents. Your sister knew too much about our financial structures. I couldn't allow that information to spread. Daniel's expression hardened. Just like I can't allow either of you to leave this vault alive. The explosion will be tragic, a gas leak during the party. You'll be found together, dead in a lover's embrace while trying to steal from Madame Seo. How poetic. He turned to leave. Wait. Jinrei's voice was desperate. Daniel, please, if you ever cared about me at all, I did care. Daniel looked back, and for a moment his mask slipped, revealing something raw and complicated beneath. I still do. That's why this hurts. But you left me no choice. Then he was gone. Maya and Jinrei stared at each other in the sudden silence. The vault was sealed. The air recycling system had been shut off. She could already feel the atmosphere growing stale. "He's going to kill everyone at the party," Maya said. "A gas explosion would take out the whole wing." "No." Jinrei pulled out his phone. No signal. The vault blocked everything. He moved to the servers, his fingers flying over keyboards. "There has to be an emergency override, a way to—" "Stop!" Maya grabbed his shoulder. "We don't have time for panic. Look at me." She turned him to face her. His eyes were wild with fear, the same helpless terror he must have felt watching his father die. "We're not going to panic. We're going to think." She gestured around them. "What are we standing in right now?" He blinked, understanding slowly dawning. "The blackmail archive. Your aunt's leverage over every powerful person in Los Angeles. Every dirty secret, every crime, every weakness." Maya moved to the filing cabinets. "If this explodes, all of it is gone. She loses her power." "But Daniel said—" "Daniel lied. He's not going to blow up the vault. He's going to blow up the party, frame us for attempted theft, and take this information for himself." Katie pulled drawers open, scanning contents. "Which means the emergency exit is still active. We just need to find it." They worked together, searching frantically. Every vault had a failsafe. Even Madame Sio wouldn't trap herself in her own archive. Behind a panel labeled Fire Suppression, they found it. A manual override that would unlock the door from inside. Jinrei pulled the lever. The vault door hissed open. They ran. The explosion came as they reached the main corridor. Not in the vault, in the ballroom, exactly as Maya had predicted. The sound was massive, concussive, followed immediately by screams. They burst back into the estate's public areas to find chaos. Flames licked up one wall. Guests stumbled toward exits, some injured, all terrified. Security was mobilizing, trying to contain the damage, and standing near the main entrance, watching the pandemonium with cold satisfaction, was Daniel Cross. Maya didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't plan. She just moved. She crossed the room in seconds, her body remembering every hour of training, every fight, every moment of rage she'd been carrying since Lucia died. Daniel turned toward her, surprise flashing across his face. Too late. Maya's first punch broke his nose. Her second drove into his solar plexus, doubling him over. The third was an uppercut that sent him sprawling backward onto the marble floor. "You killed her," she said, her voice barely human. "You killed my sister. You framed her. You made me think—" She couldn't finish. The words were choked by fury too large for language. Daniel spit blood, trying to rise. "She was weak, just like Jinrei is weak, just like—" Maya kicked him in the ribs, heard something crack, didn't care. "Maya!" Jinrei's voice cut through her rage. "Maya, stop! We need him alive!" "Why?" She rounded on him, tears streaming down her face. "Why should he live when Lucia didn't? When he was going to murder you?" "Because my aunt needs to see what he's done. Because we need his testimony to bring down everyone he was working with." Jinrei moved to her side, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "Because killing him quickly would be mercy, and he doesn't deserve mercy." Maya looked down at Daniel. He was conscious? Barely. His expensive suit ruined, his carefully constructed facade shattered. She thought of Lucia, of how she died alone and afraid, betrayed by people she tried to help. "You're right," she said softly. "Death would be mercy." She stepped back, letting Jinrei's security guards surround Daniel. They hauled him to his feet roughly. Around them, the fire was being contained. Madame Seo emerged from the smoke, her expression furious as she surveyed the damage. When her eyes found Jinrei and Maya, they narrowed with understanding. "Explain," she demanded. Jinrei handed her the files they'd retrieved from the vault. His father's documents, the blackmail, and most damning, Daniel's communications, his orders, his betrayal. Madame Seo read in silence. When she finished, she looked at Daniel with an expression that made Maya's blood run cold. This wasn't anger, it was calculation. "You tried to steal from me," Madame Seo said quietly. "Not money, not drugs. Something more valuable. Information, control, power." She stepped closer to Daniel. "And you used my nephew's weakness to do it." "He is weak," Daniel spat. He cares too much, feels too much. He's not fit to— Madame Seo slapped him, hard. The sound echoed through the damaged ballroom. "My nephew is exactly what I made him to be," she said. "Ruthless when necessary, controlled when beneficial, and loyal, painfully, stupidly, loyal to me." She glanced at Jinrei. "Though perhaps I owe you an apology for testing that loyalty so harshly." Jinrei stared at his aunt. "You're releasing me?" "Don't be dramatic. I'm acknowledging that my methods may have been counterproductive. The blackmail is yours. Do with it what you will." She turned her attention back to Daniel. "As for you, you've betrayed SBK. There's only one punishment for that." She didn't need to elaborate. Everyone in the room knew what happened to traitors. Maya watched as they dragged Daniel away. She should have felt satisfaction, victory, justice. Instead, she felt empty. Lucia was gone. Knowing who killed her didn't change that. Watching her murderer face punishment didn't bring her back. Jinrei's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "Let's go home," he said quietly. Maya nodded, unable to speak. They left Madame Seo's estate as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. The city stretched out below them, beautiful and brutal and utterly indifferent to the darkness they'd survived. In the car, Jinrei held her while she finally broke down, sobs racking her body, grief and rage and exhaustion pouring out in waves. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm sorry. I should be stronger." "You're the strongest person I've ever met," he said fiercely. "But even the strong need to break sometimes. I've got you. I'm not letting go." Maya clung to him. This man who was supposed to be her enemy, who'd become something infinitely more complicated. They'd survived the night, destroyed the blackmail, exposed the traitor. But the cost had been pieces of themselves they'd never get back. 2 weeks passed like a fever dream. Maya moved through the days with a numbness she couldn't shake, even as Jinrei held her through the nights, even as the penthouse became something approaching home. Daniel Cross was being held in a warehouse on the industrial edge of the city, the same place where Maya had first learned to fight alongside Lucia all those years ago. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd wanted this moment, dreamed of it. But now that it had arrived, all she felt was hollow. "You don't have to do this today," Jinrei said, watching her dress in the early morning light. "We can wait, give you more time to—" "No." Maya's voice was flat. "I need to finish this. I need to close this chapter before I lose my mind." He crossed to her, his hands settling on her shoulders. "Then I'm coming with you. I need to do this alone. Maya, please." She turned to face him, and something in her expression made him stop. "I need to face him alone. Just me and the man who murdered my sister. I need to look him in the eye and make him understand what he took from me." Jinrei studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Taemin will drive you. He'll stay outside, but he'll be there if you need him." "Thank you." He pulled her close, pressing his lips to her forehead. "Come back to me," he whispered. "Whatever happens in that room, come back to me." Maya didn't trust herself to speak, so she just nodded against his chest. The warehouse looked different in daylight. Smaller, somehow. Less imposing. The place where she'd learned to channel her rage into precision, where Lucia used to cheer from the sidelines, had become a tomb. Taemin opened the door for her, his expression carefully neutral. "He's in the back room, cuffed to a chair. 2 guards outside the door, but they won't interfere." Maya nodded, her throat too tight for words. The corridor stretched before her like a tunnel. Each step felt weighted, significant. This was it. The moment she'd been building toward since the day they told her Lucia was dead. The guard stepped aside without a word. Maya pushed open the door. Daniel Cross sat slumped in a metal chair, his wrists cuffed behind him. 2 weeks of captivity had destroyed his polished exterior. His designer clothes were gone, replaced by torn shirt and stained pants. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. But when he looked up and saw Maya, something like relief flickered across his features. "Finally!" he rasped. "I was beginning to think Jinrei would keep me here forever." Maya closed the door behind her. The room was small, empty except for Daniel's chair and a single overhead light. Concrete floor, cinder block walls, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. She didn't speak, just stood there, staring at the man who'd taken everything from her. "Go ahead," Daniel said. "Say what you came to say, or are you here to kill me? Is that what this is? Your big moment of vengeance?" "I came to understand," Maya said quietly. "I came to hear you explain why my sister had to die." Daniel laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "Your sister was in the wrong place at the wrong time with access to the wrong information. She saw financial records that would have unraveled 3 years of carefully constructed laundering operations. She was cooperating with federal agents." He spit blood onto the concrete. "She was a threat. Threats get eliminated. It's not personal, it's survival." "Not personal." Maya's voice was hollow. "You keep saying that like it means something, like it absolves you. What do you want from me? Remorse? Guilt?" Daniel's one good eye fixed on her. "I did what I had to do to protect the organization, to protect my position. Your sister was collateral damage in a war she didn't even know she was fighting." "She was trying to fix her mistake," Maya said. "She accessed those files by accident, and when she realized what they were, she went to the authorities. She was trying to do the right thing. And that made her even more dangerous." Daniel shifted in his chair. "Look, I know you want me to be the monster, the villain in your revenge story. But the truth is messier than that. I didn't enjoy killing your sister. I didn't celebrate it. I authorized her removal because it was strategically necessary, because letting her live would have compromised everything." "You're right," Maya said softly. "You're not the villain in my story. You're just pathetic." Daniel's expression hardened. "Say what you want. Do what you came here to do. But know this, I'd make the same choice again, every time. Because in this world, sentiment gets you killed. Love makes you weak. Your sister's compassion, Jinrei's guilt over his father, your need for revenge. These are all weaknesses. And weaknesses get exploited." Maya moved closer, crouching down so she was eye level with him. "You murdered my sister because you're a coward. Because you were too afraid to face the consequences of your own crimes. You hid behind strategy and necessity, but the truth is, you killed an innocent woman to save yourself." "She wasn't innocent. She was 24 years old." Maya's control finally cracked. "She was trying to become a lawyer. She volunteered at a youth center. She called our mother every Sunday. She had dreams and plans and a future. And you took all of that away because you were scared." Tears streamed down her face now, months of grief finally finding release. "I want you to say her name," Maya said. "I want you to look at me and say my sister's name." Daniel's jaw clenched. "This is pointless." "Say it. Lucia." He spit the name like a curse. "Lucia Torres. There. Does that make you feel better? Does hearing me say her name bring her back?" Maya stood slowly. She'd come here expecting rage, expecting the satisfaction of finally confronting her sister's killer. Instead, all she felt was profound sadness. "No," she said quietly, "nothing brings her back. That's what you don't understand. That's what people like you will never understand. You see the world as a series of strategic calculations, but you're blind to what really matters." She turned toward the door. "That's it?" Daniel called after her. "You're not going to kill me? Not going to make me suffer?" Maya paused, her hand on the doorknob. "You're already suffering. You'll spend however long Jinrei decides to keep you alive in this warehouse, knowing that everything you built is gone. Your position, your influence, your carefully constructed facade, all of it destroyed. And then when he finally decides you've suffered enough, you'll die. Alone, unmourned, forgotten." She looked back at him one last time. "My sister will be remembered. I'll make sure of that. I'll live the life she didn't get to live. I'll love the way she taught me to love. I'll fight for the things she believed in." Maya's voice was steady now. "But you'll be nothing, less than nothing. Just another body that disappeared in the shadows." "Wait!" But Maya was already gone, pulling the door closed behind her. In the corridor, she leaned against the wall, her legs suddenly weak. She'd thought confronting Daniel would bring closure, would somehow heal the wound Lucia's death had left. Instead, it had just confirmed what she already knew. Revenge was hollow. Justice was an illusion. Her sister was gone, and nothing, not confrontation, not violence, not even Daniel's eventual death, would change that. Taman appeared at the end of the corridor. "Miss Torres, are you all right?" Maya pushed off the wall, straightening her shoulders. "Take me home." Jinrei was waiting when she returned to the penthouse. He took one look at her face and pulled her into his arms without a word. "I don't know what I expected," Maya said against his chest. "I thought seeing him would make me feel something, satisfaction, closure, anything, but I just felt empty." "Revenge usually is," Jinrei said quietly. "We build it up in our minds as this transformative moment, but when it finally comes, we realize it can't undo the past, can't bring back what we've lost. So what do we do now?" He pulled back slightly, his hands framing her face. "We live. We build something that matters. We make sure the people we've lost aren't forgotten." "Your aunt released you from the blackmail," Maya said. "You're free now. You could leave all of this behind, rebuild your life somewhere else, become someone new." "I could," Jinrei agreed, "but I won't." "Why not?" "Because this world, this dark, brutal, complicated world, is where I found you, and I'm not walking away from that." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "Besides, someone needs to run SBK, someone who understands that power doesn't have to be built entirely on fear, someone who can evolve this organization into something less monstrous." Maya felt something shift in her chest, a purpose beyond revenge, beyond grief. "You want to reform it, from the inside. I want to try, and I want you beside me while I do it." Jinrei's expression was serious. "I know it's not the life you imagined. I know it's dangerous and complicated and probably insane. But yes," he blinked. "Yes? Yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll help you rebuild. Yes, to whatever future we can carve out of this darkness." Maya rose on her toes, pressing her lips to his. "Because you're right. This is where we found each other, and I'm not walking away from that either." The kiss deepened, became something desperate and claiming. They'd survived betrayal, violence, loss. They'd looked into each other's darkness and chosen to stay. When they finally broke apart, Jinrei rested his forehead against hers. "My aunt wants to meet with us tomorrow. She's officially stepping back from day-to-day operations, transferring control to me." "To us," Maya corrected. "If we're doing this, we're doing it together, equal partners." "The organization might not accept." "Then we make them accept it." Maya's voice was firm. "I didn't survive everything I've survived to be anyone's accessory. If I'm staying in this world, I'm staying as your equal. Your partner in every sense." Jinrei smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "My queen." "Your queen," Maya agreed. They stood there in the fading light, two people who'd been broken and remade by violence, choosing to build something new from the ashes of what they'd lost. The next morning, Maya woke to find Jinrei already dressed, standing by the windows with his phone to his ear. When he noticed she was awake, he ended the call quickly. "Daniel's dead," he said simply. "Sometime during the night. They're saying it was suicide, but you had him killed," Maya finished. Jinrei's expression was unreadable. He knew too much, and keeping him alive was a liability we couldn't afford. "I'm sorry I didn't consult you first, but—" "Don't apologize." Maya sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "I understand why you did it, and honestly, I'm relieved. I thought I wanted to be the one to kill him, but actually doing it would have destroyed something in me." "You're not angry?" "I'm grateful." She met his gaze. "You protected me from becoming something I'd regret. That's what partners do." Jinrei crossed to the bed, sitting beside her. "Madame Seo is expecting us at noon. Are you ready for this?" Maya thought about Lucia, about the girl she'd been before her sister's death, about the woman she'd become in the aftermath. "I'm ready," she said. "Let's build our kingdom." 6 months later, Maya stood in the penthouse and barely recognized her life. The space had been renovated after the chaos of Daniel's betrayal, bloodstains cleaned, bullet holes patched, broken glass replaced. But they'd kept the essential darkness, the elegant brutality that made it theirs. Now it was truly their throne room. She wore a black silk dress, her natural hair freed from its usual controlled style, wild curls framing her face. The ring on her finger caught the city lights, a black pearl surrounded by diamonds given to her 3 months ago when Jin-Ray had proposed on the roof of the Velvet Garden at midnight, Mrs. Maya Park. She'd taken his name, his world, his darkness. And in return, she'd given him her absolute loyalty, her strategic mind, her capacity for beautiful violence. Together, they were building something magnificent and terrible. The door opened. Jin-Ray entered, shedding his jacket, loosening his tie. He looked exhausted. They'd been consolidating power, eliminating resistance, restructuring SBK's operations. The work was brutal and endless. But when his eyes found Maya, his expression softened into something approaching peace. "How did the meeting go?" she asked. "Better than expected. The Southern California families have formally recognized our authority. No more challenges, no more threats." He crossed to the bar, poured 2 glasses of whiskey. "We've won." Maya accepted the glass, took a sip. "Have we actually won?" "What do you mean?" She gestured at the city beyond the windows. "We've survived. We've taken control. But have we changed anything? Or have we just become new versions of the people we destroyed?" Jin-Ray was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think we're building something different. Not perfect. Nothing in this world is perfect. But better. More honest." "More honest about being criminals?" Maya's lips curved slightly. "More honest about power, about violence, about the darkness that exists whether we acknowledge it or not." He moved behind her, his arms circling her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "We don't pretend to be saviors. We don't hide behind legitimacy. We rule the shadows, and we do it with clear eyes." His lips found the curve of her neck, pressing soft kisses that made her breath catch. "Have I told you today that you're magnificent?" he murmured against her skin. "Not in the last 3 hours," Maya said, tilting her head to give him better access. "Then I'm remiss." His hands slid up her sides, finding the zipper of her dress. "You're magnificent, terrifying, the most dangerous woman in Los Angeles, and you're mine." Maya turned in his arms, her hands framing his face. "Just as you're mine." They kissed, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that spoke of total possession and absolute trust. Maya's dress slipped from her shoulders. Jin-Ray's shirt joined it on the floor. They'd made love countless times in the past 6 months, sometimes gentle, sometimes brutal, always intense. But tonight felt different. Tonight felt like celebration, like the final sealing of their blood oath. He lifted her easily, carrying her to their bedroom. The space was dark, intimate, lit only by the city beyond the windows. He laid her down on silk sheets the color of midnight, his body covering hers with careful weight. "I want you to know something," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Everything I am, everything I've built, everything I'll become, it's yours, completely, forever." Maya's throat tightened. "And everything I am is yours. My darkness, my rage, my love, all of it until death and beyond." They came together then, skin against skin, breath mingling, bodies moving in perfect synchronization. It wasn't just sex. It was communion, confirmation, the physical manifestation of their unbreakable bond. Jin-Ray was reverent in his possession, his hands mapping her body like sacred territory, his mouth worshipping every curve and scar. Maya responded with equal intensity, claiming him as thoroughly as he claimed her. 2 damaged souls completing each other in the only way that mattered. When they finally peaked together, crying out in unison, it felt like conquering and surrendering simultaneously, like becoming something greater than the sum of their individual darkness. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets in each other, hearts slowly returning to normal rhythms. Jin-Ray's fingers traced idle patterns on Maya's shoulder. She pressed her ear to his chest, listening to the steady beat that had become her favorite sound. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Choosing this path? Becoming what you've become?" Maya considered the question seriously. She thought of Lucia, of the innocent girl she'd been before her sister's death, thought of the dreams she'd abandoned, the light she'd deliberately walked away from. "No," she said finally. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret the pain that brought me here. But I don't regret the choice. This life, this power, It's mine. I claimed it, built it, and I'll defend it with everything I am. Even if it costs your soul? She lifted her head to meet his gaze. I don't believe in souls anymore. I believe in power, in loyalty, in the empire we're building together. That's enough. Jinrei's smile was soft and devastating. Then we're perfect for each other, two soulless monsters ruling the darkness. Exactly. Maya kissed him once softly. Now let's finish what we started. The annual gala at the Velvet Garden arrived like a coronation. The same venue where Maya had served drinks now hosted the city's most powerful people, all of them there to pay homage to the new regime. Maya walked through the crowd with Jinrei at her side, accepting greetings, acknowledging bows, radiating authority. These people feared them, respected them, would never dare cross them. It was intoxicating. Madame Seo was there, holding court in a corner with the other matriarchs. When Maya approached to pay respects, the older woman's gaze was sharp but not hostile. "You've surprised me," Madame Seo said in her careful English. "I expected you to be a distraction, a phase he'd outgrow, but you've proven yourself formidable." "Thank you," Maya replied, genuinely pleased by the acknowledgement. "Don't thank me yet. I'm still watching, still waiting for you to make a mistake." But Madame Seo's smile took the edge off the words. "Though I admit you've been remarkably competent so far. My nephew chose well." Maya nodded once, then moved on. She'd never be friends with Madame Seo. Too much history, too much pain. But mutual respect was enough. The night progressed in a blur of conversations and performances. Maya and Jinrei moved through the crowd as one unit, their partnership evident in every glance, every touch, every shared smile. Near midnight, Jinrei pulled her onto the balcony, the same one where he'd first kissed her 6 months ago. The party continued inside, but out here, it was just them and the stars, and the empire they'd built. "Do you remember?" Jinrei said. "That first night when you spilled whiskey on me and chose to fight instead of apologize?" Maya laughed. "How could I forget? I was terrified, convinced you'd kill me." "I almost did." He turned to face her fully. "But then I saw you in that cage, fierce and beautiful and absolutely unbreakable. And I thought, this woman is dangerous." He smiled. "I had no idea how right I was." "Dangerous to you?" "Dangerous to my control, my carefully constructed walls. You shattered all of it, Maya. Made me feel things I'd convinced myself I was incapable of feeling." His thumb brushed her cheek. "You saved me from the monster I was becoming." Maya caught his hand, pressing it firmly against her face. "And you gave me permission to become the monster I needed to be. So I'd say we're even." They stood like that for a long moment. Two people who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to make it their kingdom. "I have something for you," Jinrei said. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's breath caught. "We're already married." "This isn't a wedding ring. Open it." Inside was a key, ornate, silver, obviously significant. "The Velvet Garden," Jinrei explained. "I'm signing it over to you. Complete ownership. It's where we met. Where you first showed me who you really were. I want it to be yours." Maya stared at the key, overwhelmed. "Jinrei, you're not just my partner, Maya. You're my equal, my queen, and queens need their own kingdoms." He closed her fingers around the key. "Build whatever you want here. Transform it however you see fit. Make it yours." Tears burned Maya's eyes. She'd given up so much. Her innocence, her sister, her dreams of a normal life. But standing here with this man who saw her darkness and worshipped it, she realized she'd gained something far more valuable. Purpose, power, partnership. "I love you," she said. The words still felt strange on her tongue, but no less true. "My monster, my king, my home." "I love you," Jinrei replied. "My warrior, my queen, my everything." They kissed as the city sprawled beneath them, a million lights marking territory that was theirs to command. The darkness wasn't their enemy anymore. It was their element, their power source, their throne. And from this darkness, they would rule absolutely. Inside the Velvet Garden, the party continued. but Maya and Jinrei remained on the balcony, wrapped in shadows and each other, two broken people who'd become something magnificent in their shared darkness. "What do you want to do with the restaurant?" Jinrei asked. "Keep it as is? Transform it into something new?" Maya thought of Lucia, of how her sister had always dreamed of opening a community center, a place where kids from rough neighborhoods could learn and grow and escape the violence that surrounded them. "I want to keep the restaurant as a front," she said slowly, "but underneath, in that basement where I fought Taman, I want to build something different, a training facility, a place where people like us, people who've been broken by this world, can learn to fight back, to survive, to become dangerous." Jinrei's smile was proud. "A army. A family," Maya corrected. "People who understand that sometimes the only way to escape darkness is to become darker than what's hunting you."